Most people think almonds are just a healthy snack. But what if I told you this tiny nut fuels billion-dollar battles, kills millions of bees, and might be quietly draining one of the most precious resources on Earth? Today, join FactoryX as we dive deep into the hidden world of almonds, where nature, controversy, and high-stakes farming collide. You'll never look at a handful of almonds the same way again. The seedling stage, where it all begins. Before an almond ever ends up in your granola bar or almond milk latte, it starts out as something much more humble, a delicate seedling. And that beginning isn't random. Farmers don't just throw seeds into the dirt and hope for the best. Almond production is a calculated, high-stakes process that begins in the middle of winter, when most crops are dormant and the fields are quiet. Planting usually starts in late January or February, when the air is cool and the soil is soft enough to work with. This timing is no accident. It gives the roots a head start before the brutal summer heat rolls in. Each seedling is planted with exact spacing, often around 15 to 20 feet apart, leaving enough room for the branches to spread out and the harvest machines to maneuver years later. But not all seedlings are created equal. Growers often use a grafted rootstock, where one tree's hardy roots are fused with another variety known for its nut quality. Why? Because it creates a supercharged hybrid, resistant to soil diseases, adapted to the local climate, and capable of producing more almonds per acre. Think of it like the almond industry's version of a performance-enhanced athlete. Once in the ground, the seedlings don't just sit there. Farmers install protective tubes around each one, not only to guard them from pests like rabbits and gophers, but also to act as mini greenhouses. These tubes help trap heat and moisture, accelerating early growth and shielding the young plants from sunburn, a real issue in regions like California's Central Valley. And while these tiny trees might look peaceful in the orchard, the care behind them is anything but passive. For the first 2 years, farmers invest heavily in irrigation, fertilizers, and disease control. Almond trees are notorious water drinkers. Young trees need consistent, carefully measured irrigation to develop healthy root systems without drowning or drying out. Too much water and you risk root rot. Too little and you stunt their growth permanently. Then comes the threat of disease. Even at this early stage, trees are vulnerable to fungal infections and pests like spider mites and aphids. Farmers must inspect rows constantly, trimming away infected branches and applying treatments when needed. For organic orchards, this process is even more delicate, relying on beneficial insects or plant-based sprays. If all goes well, by the end of year 2, the seedlings have transformed into small trees, maybe 6 to 8 feet tall. Still too young to produce almonds, but strong enough to handle their first pruning, which helps shape the tree and promote better yields later. It's easy to forget that the almonds in your pantry started with this level of attention. But in reality, each one represents years of quiet groundwork, from hand-planted roots to carefully guarded trunks. And in the world of almond farming, those early years make or break everything that comes next. The hidden cost: almonds and water. Almonds might be tiny, but they're massive water hogs. On average, it takes over a gallon of water to grow just one almond. Multiply that by the billions of almonds consumed worldwide, and you start to understand the scale of the problem. The irony? Most almonds are grown in California, a state that's been battling severe droughts for over a decade. The Central Valley, in particular, has become ground zero for this clash between agriculture and environment. Almond growers argue that modern technology, especially drip irrigation systems, makes their water use efficient. Instead of flooding entire fields, water is delivered drop by drop directly to the tree's roots. That sounds responsible until you realize the sheer volume of trees being farmed. Entire counties have shifted from diverse crops to almond monocultures, each one drawing millions of gallons of water from underground aquifers. Wells are being dug deeper than ever, and in some areas, the land is literally sinking due to overpumping. This hasn't gone unnoticed. Environmental activists, journalists, and even fellow farmers have raised red flags. There's been rising tensions over water rights, with accusations that almond farming is essentially privatizing public water for profit. And in a state where wildfires, water rationing, and ecosystem collapse are constant threats, almonds are becoming more than a crop. They're a symbol of resource exploitation. So while your almond latte might feel guilt-free, behind it, there's a complicated story of survival, scarcity, and silent battles over a vanishing resource. The bee dependency, an industry at risk. Almond trees can't grow almonds without pollination. And pollination? That means bees, billions of them. Every year, around 80% of all commercial beehives in the US are transported to California in February. It's the largest organized pollination event in the world. Semi-trucks packed with buzzing hives roll in from across the country, timed precisely with the almond bloom. Why such urgency? Almond trees only bloom for about 2 to 3 weeks, and every flower has just a short window to be pollinated. If the bees miss it, the crop fails. But here's the catch. Bees are dying in record numbers. After almond season, many beekeepers report shocking losses. Entire colonies gone. Experts blame a combination of pesticide exposure, lack of floral diversity in almond orchards, stress from transportation, and mites or diseases that spread rapidly in these crowded environments. Some scientists have started calling almond farming a death trap for bees. And that's not hyperbole. Without bees, there are no almonds. But without safer practices, there might soon be no bees. To make matters worse, almond monocultures provide food for bees only during that short blooming period. For the rest of the year, the orchards are barren, forcing beekeepers to find other foraging grounds or supplement their hives with sugar water. So the almond industry sits on a razor's edge, completely dependent on an endangered workforce it might be helping to destroy. It's a fragile system with no backup plan, and if the bees disappear, almonds go with them. Growth and harvest. Nature meets machine. After the delicate pollination phase, things start to speed up. The flowers slowly fall away, and what's left behind begins to take shape. The green beginnings of almonds. Over the next 5 to 6 months, these small pods mature, hardening their outer shells and drawing nutrients from both the soil and meticulously controlled irrigation systems. Farmers track their development closely, monitoring moisture levels, heat stress, and nutrient balance. Any mistake in this phase can lead to stunted or misshapen almonds, reducing both yield and profit. When harvest season arrives in late summer to early fall, it's time for nature to meet the machines. Massive rigs roll into the orchards, called tree shakers, and do exactly what it sounds like. They grip the trunks and violently shake the trees, causing a rainfall of almonds to drop to the ground in seconds. It's oddly mesmerizing and highly efficient. The ground, now covered in thousands of almonds, becomes the next battlefield. Farmers only have a short window to sweep, gather, and dry them. Leave them too long and you risk contamination from pests, moisture, or even mold. But it's not all about brute force. Timing, temperature, and terrain all affect the harvest success. In larger orchards, GPS-guided sweepers and mechanical harvesters are deployed in coordinated waves, ensuring nothing is left behind. It's a modern-day almond gold rush, driven by technology, but still entirely at the mercy of the environment. One bad weather pattern, one unexpected heat wave, and the year's profits could disappear in days. Sun drying and the flavor secret. Once almonds are harvested, they're not ready for snacking just yet. First, they need to dry out, and fast. Moisture is the enemy of quality. If almonds are stored with too much water content, they can mold, spoil, or even become a health risk. That's why in many parts of the world, especially in the Middle East and California, farmers still rely on a centuries-old method, sun drying. After harvest, almonds are spread across open fields or drying pads in wide, even layers. They sit under the sun for anywhere from 5 to 10 days, slowly losing moisture while developing their signature nutty flavor. This process doesn't just dry them, it also enhances the oils and aromatics inside the almond, creating a richer taste and smoother texture. But sun drying comes with risks. Sudden rain can ruin batches. Strong winds or birds can scatter nuts. It requires constant monitoring and a bit of luck. Some commercial producers skip this step altogether, opting for industrial dryers that blast the almonds with hot air to speed things up. It's faster, but often at the cost of flavor. You can usually taste the difference between sun-dried and machine-dried almonds, especially if you eat them raw. In a market driven by volume and speed, the traditional drying method is becoming rare. But for purists, it's still the gold standard. Proof that sometimes the best results still come from slowing down and letting nature do the work. Shelling and sorting. Automation at work. After drying, almonds enter the industrial stage, where human hands step back and machines take over. The first stop is shelling. Almonds arrive at processing facilities with their outer hulls and shells still intact. These layers are tough and brittle, perfect for protecting the nut inside, but useless once the drying is done. Industrial rollers and hulling machines crack the outer layers and separate the valuable almond from the debris. From there, it's on to sorting, and this is where things get high-tech. Rows of almonds move along conveyor belts under optical scanners and X-ray machines. These systems can detect even the smallest imperfection, cracks, mold, discoloration, or size inconsistencies, and automatically sort them into different categories. The most pristine almonds are set aside for whole nut packaging, the premium product sold in grocery stores or used in luxury confections. Lesser grade almonds are routed for slicing, grinding, or almond milk production. Nothing goes to waste, but not all almonds are created equal. Throughout the process, workers monitor the machines, but the system is mostly automated. Giant hoppers, vacuums, and robotic arms work in seamless coordination to process tons of almonds per hour. And behind this seemingly sterile process lies a secret. The sorting stage is where profit margins are made or lost. A small defect can demote a nut from gourmet to generic, cutting its value in half. So while it may look like just another factory line, this stage determines what your almonds become and what they're worth. Packaging and global distribution. Once almonds are shelled and sorted, the final act begins: packaging and distribution. This stage might sound simple, but it's one of the most critical. Almonds are a sensitive product, easily affected by air, moisture, and temperature. That means every bag, box, or vacuum-sealed pouch must be designed to keep the almonds fresh, safe, and shelf-stable for months, sometimes years. Packaging varies widely depending on where the almonds are headed. Whole, raw almonds are usually packed in airtight bags, often flushed with nitrogen to prevent oxidation. Sliced or blanched almonds might go into bulk containers for bakeries. Roasted or flavored varieties are packed in multi-layer pouches with resealable zippers and bright branding. At the same time, labels are printed with nutritional info, origin data, and batch numbers for tracking. This isn't just about marketing, it's about compliance, recalls, and traceability in a global market. Once packed, almonds are loaded onto pallets, shrink-wrapped, and stored in temperature-controlled warehouses. From there, they're shipped to supermarkets, cafes, online retailers, and manufacturers across the world. Major markets include the United States, China, Germany, India, and the Middle East. But here's something surprising. Much of this distribution happens just weeks after harvest. In peak demand seasons like holidays or health food trends, almonds can move from orchard to retail shelf in under a month. It's the final leg of a complex journey, but it's also the moment when everything, the planting, the bees, the water, the machines, comes together, all for a simple snack that fits in the palm of your hand. The controversy you didn't see coming. Almonds are marketed as a clean, healthy, even eco-friendly food. But beneath the surface, a growing number of critics say they're anything but. Let's start with almond milk, now a billion-dollar industry. It's often hailed as a sustainable alternative to dairy. But the truth? It takes over 15 gallons of water to produce a single glass of almond milk. And most of that water comes from drought-stricken California. Then there's monoculture farming. Entire regions that once grew diverse crops are now dominated by almond orchards stretching for miles. This lack of biodiversity creates a fragile system, vulnerable to pests and disease, which in turn leads to heavier pesticide use. It also means fewer food sources for wildlife and pollinators, turning once lively ecosystems into silent, sterile rows of trees. Add to that the impact on bees. Millions die every year after pollinating almond orchards, and experts fear we're pushing these vital pollinators to the brink. Some even argue that almond production is speeding up the collapse of the bee population, without which global agriculture could face a real crisis. To top it off, corporations and hedge funds have started investing heavily in almond farming, buying up land and water rights. For them, it's not about nutrition or sustainability, it's about profit. And small farmers often get pushed out in the process. So while almonds seem innocent, their booming popularity may come at a hidden cost to the environment, to biodiversity, and to the future of sustainable farming itself. From bee chaos to billion-dollar exports, almonds are far more than a trendy snack. They're a symbol of modern farming's biggest questions about sustainability, survival, and sacrifice. So the next time you bite into an almond, remember, you're not just eating a nut, you're tasting a system built on precision, risk, and more than a little controversy. If this surprised you, hit that like button and tell us in the comments, did you know how deep the almond story really goes? And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more hidden stories from the food world coming soon.